activities should be 0. You cannot delay them at all. It is just like eating the breakfast, right? Each activity is like eating the breakfast. The moment you delay on B or D or E or F, you've gone past 38 minutes, right? So float on all the activities of B, D, E and F is 0. Will be 0. Now, so if I take a different color, that's your critical path. Right? Float is 0, float is 0, float is 0, float is 0. Now the question arises, how much is the float on A and how much is the float on C? How do we calculate that? We calculate that using a technique called EST, LST. Earliest start time and latest start time. Now let's try to understand the earliest start time first. Is this clear? So again repeating, any activity which has any path which has the maximum amount of time is the critical path. Critical path is that path which is this time is the minimum time for all of this project to finish. You cannot delay activities on the critical path. So when you say you cannot delay the activities on critical path, that means float is 0. Float is how much time you can delay. So float is 0 means that you cannot delay it even by a minute or a day, depending upon what the context of the question is. Now you can certainly delay A and C. By how much will be decided by its float, because float is not 0. It will be more than 1. It will be more than 0. What that number is, we are going to calculate using this LST EST method, right? So I'll take some stuff off the board and explain you how your LST EST works. So probably I think I can work it out with this. Now, EST. EST is the earliest start time. What we do is we make a small little box for each activity. For D, you've got a box here. For E, you've got a box here. For F, you've got a box here. Now, and we divide it into two parts. When you are starting, your EST for the starting elements or starting activities are 0. So on the left side of the box, you write 0 because they are the starting points. Now, for EST, we keep adding the number that we are getting along our path. So let's go from A to C. A was a 0 at the start, took 6 minutes, and you eventually reached C. So by the time you reach C, this was 6, right? Because you spent 6 minutes. Let's say this is minutes. Now, you went to A from B. From start, you can also go to C. From B, you can also go to C. So from B, you're spending 9 minutes and reaching C, right? In EST, when you have such a kind of a situation where one activity is being approached by two different activities with different times, you add the two, you pick up the largest value of the two. When you are going from, in order to reach to C, you go from A to C, you took 6 minutes. Another direction is you go to B to C, you took 9 minutes. So rather than writing a 6, you write a 9 here, because 9 is the largest value. All good? So this is 9. Now from C, and from C you went to F. C to F, you took another 8 minutes. So what is 9 plus 8? 17. So let's hold 17 here and see what's going to go into the box. Because there's another path to F which is via D and E. So let's hold 17 for a second. Let's go from C to E via D. Now how much is that? You spend from 9, you spend another 7. And probably when you reach here, 9 plus 7 is how much? 16. You write 16 because there is no other connection to E from D. Right? Then from 16, from E you reached F. 16 plus 10, 26. So F has another number, 26. So F has a 26 coming from the bottom, from E, and 17 coming from 8. So which is higher? So you take the higher number, so right? 26. Does that make sense? And what is your finish? The finish, if I say finish, is also a box. So from 26 to 12 is how much? 38. And that's the number for finish. Normally what we do is we draw the boxes just behind the activities. I'll make the colors same probably, just so that we're on the same page. Yeah. So that's the activity here. And you've got 26 here. Is this okay? What we've done is something called earliest start time. So these numbers are the earliest that each activity can start. So activity A and B has to start at the 0th minute. Activity C starts at the 9th minute at the earliest. Then activity E starts at the 16th minute. And then activity F starts at 26th minute. And then eventually we finish at 38. This box here, 9, this box here, which says 9, is the earliest start. It serves both C and D because they're starting at the same time. And then eventually we finish at 38. This box here, 9, this box here, which says 9, is the earliest start. It serves both C and D because they're starting at the same time. You remember the activity diagram? Your C and D had what? C and D had A comma B. Right? So this box serves for both A and D because they're starting together. Just like You have 0 at start here. You can draw 2 boxes if you want to. One for C and one for D. You want to draw, but then, that'll add more confusion. Is this clear so far? This is called forward scanning. We scanned from left to right. And forward scanning gives us the EST of every activity. All good? I'll take care of the stuff from the board and I'll explain you the LST now. Let's do the LST now. LST is the latest start time. You remember in that example where that person was downloading the email? And I said the earliest he can download is at the first minute, and the latest he can download without impacting anything is the 6th minute. Because at the 7th minute, 8th minute, and the 9th minute, I think you need to read the email and so on and so forth. So the latest is how far you can delay the activity. That's the latest start time. And how soon you can start any activity is the earliest start time. Right? Now let's try LST, and we use a technique called backward scanning. Backward scanning scans from the right to left. Alright? From right to left. You are at the finish and now you are going to go at the start. Norman, is this making sense? Yeah? Mitch? All good so far? When you are at finish, just copy the same number as is. Because you remember our longest path was this red line, which took 38 minutes. You see my EST gave me the 38th minute. Now, when you're moving back, you subtract. So now you're subtracting. So from the 38th minute, you took away 12 minutes and you reached to the activity F. So 38 minus 12 is how much? 26. Now you see, for activity F, you have the EST number as well and you have the LST number as well. The float formula is, float of any activity is the EST minus LST. EST minus LST, which is 0 in this case. So that means you cannot delay F at all. And you see our red line also has F in it. Yep.
Isn't it LST minus?
LST minus EST. You cannot delay activity F at all. Now, let's go from F to E. You've got 10 here. So take away 26 minus 10. You got how much? You got 16. You see now, the float of activity E is also 0. 16 minus 16. And that is why it's in my red line path. Does that make sense? Yes? Let's look at this box here, which is the box for maybe C and D combined. Now, from 26, if I take away 8, how much that is? 26 minus 8 is how much? 18. Let's mark this number for a while. What are the other ways backward I can go and reach here? I can go from this part as well. Yes? So from, I was 16 years, 16 minus 7, what's that number? 9. I take the minimum this time. And I take a 9. Right? And then from here, let's go here. So from 9, zero plus 9. From 9 minus 0 is 9. I forgot to draw the LST here. EST LST box here. Right. So from 0, 9, 9, and from 9, 0, 9. Yep. And then 9 minus 9 is 0. And we were here, let's get here, 9 minus 6 is 3. Now I've filled all the boxes. If I ask you what is the float on activity A? What is the float on activity A? LST minus EST. So activity A can be delayed by 3 minutes or days, whatever that is. So that's how you find the LST and EST and the float. So in exam, if there's a question that is asked that find the float on activity blah, you need to do the forward scanning, you need to do the backward scanning, you get the 2 numbers in, take away 2 numbers, you get your answer. Okay, and then you can, lift and shift this formula. So you can say your LST is float plus EST, right? And so on and so forth. This is just the lift and shift of the formula. All good? Make sense? This one? Yep. Any questions? So the few important formulas are your LST equals to the LST of the following activity minus the duration of the activity. See, how are you finding LST? You see here, if I have to find the LST of A, which is this number, how do I find? I need the LST here and the duration of A. The LST of the previous, LST of the previous, and the duration, which is 6. So minus the 2. So 9 minus 6 gives me 3. Right? All good? Make sense? Alright, let's do a solved example.